I don't want to turn this into a infomercial for the Goldbox, but I did want to just put together a short video showing the components, how it's made. I know a lot of people, when they hear 3D printed, they think weak plastic, cheap parts, and it's just not the case anymore. So I just want to show you, or at least try to convince you that it's not that way. Technology's come a long way with the materials and the printer, but what really makes the difference is all in the design work. And to prove that, this one is actually my first prototype. It is, I want to say, a couple weeks now from being 2 years old. Has well over a ton of material run through it, and I've had no issues. The only thing I've done, about 5 months ago, I replaced this lens, or this cover, because it was getting so scratchy, it was making it difficult for the film. I could still see fine in it, but with the reflections, it was getting a little tough. And I also want to point out that this is polycarbonate. It's not plexiglass. I will never ever use plexiglass. I can't not stand that stuff. This stuff is so much stronger. It costs a lot more, but it's way better. This is actually what they can use to make bulletproof glass. I believe 1 inch thick of this stuff will stop a 9mm round, just to show you how tough this stuff is, and I'm using 1/4 inch. So I just wanted to point that out. That's not plexiglass. But I wanted to show, usually when you get your box, it'll come in a UPS box, a post office box. You may see this foam go away. This is kind of weird, but the cost of foam right now is actually a little pricey. I can literally buy a towel that people will actually use for years as packing material versus something that's going to get used once and thrown into a landfill. So you may see a box with the foam, but you also might start seeing it come with this. Just a nice quality towel that you can actually use. And just also to point out quickly, to run this box, you need a 1/4 inch classifier and some type of 12-volt power source for the pump. These do not come in the kit. They're cheap. You can even make a screen. You can pull some screen material from the hardware store and just make your own little setup. This one's nice because it fits in the bucket. This is a little higher end LiPo battery. This battery, because this pump draws so little amperage, I can easily go 10 hours straight with this battery. This thing will last all weekend long. Great little battery. And it's only, I believe it's only like it's under 2 pounds. It's super light. So just to point out that you do require 12 volts and some type of classification to get the material down to 1/4 or below. But just to show you what comes in the box, and we'll go through bit by bit. Full instructions with pictures to make it easy. I mean, this thing's pretty simple to put together, but I designed it specifically in smaller pieces because I wanted it to go into a 3-gallon bucket. This isn't the bucket used, but this is it will fit in this easily. It's super portable and super lightweight. That was the goal of this whole setup. I wanted something that was easy to get out to the streams. So there's instructions. You get a high-end bilge hose. I didn't cheap out on this one. I just have problems when you buy something and the whole kit can be great, and then a few cheap parts just ruin the whole experience. So there's nothing cheap in here. Everything was high-grade quality. There's the hose. And then as you'll see, this little side thing. I had so much back pressure being formed in here because this box is pressurized. I was able to use it, and this back pressure actually goes into the hopper. And this is 3D printed with a channel hidden inside of it. I'll show you. And then you can see the little drip ports. Because I found when I was first testing this, when I was putting wet material in here, it was sticking to the plastics. So I needed a little bit of water coming in here, and that it just ended up working great. That I have some back pressure to feed into this, and it just drips out just enough to keep it wet. The cool thing, I'll have to show in a future video. I can't do it now, but when this system's running, there's actually quite a bit of pressure coming out of here. So when you get to the bottom little bits of the bucket, pull this out and spray this inside of the bucket, and it starts washing it out. It's like a little mini garden hose. It actually works really good. Just a little trick when you're out running. You can do it inside. Just be careful when you pull it out. You got to be quick because it sprays out pretty good. But out on the river, this thing works great for washing off stuff before you shut down the whole system. This is the pump. This is a really good one. I have not had any issues with this thing. Comes with a 4-year warranty. Again, I'm using the best. And if you notice, this is one of the smallest pumps used on any piece of equipment. And the weird thing is, it's too strong. I actually have to turn the valve down to about 60-70% because it's just too strong of a pump. I thought about going to a 350 gallon per hour, but it's a smaller outlet, which makes all the hosing to be a pain. And I was concerned that if, for whatever reason, you want to be further away from the river and maybe you wanted to double up these hoses, or you have to pump up a steep embankment, having the extra power would work out great. But because this is also, I forget how much this draws. I want to say it draws just under 1 amp. So that's what helps keep the battery. You'll be amazed how long this thing will run on just a standard 12 volt. This is the hopper. Now I'm going to go briefly over certain materials of the 3D printing. I ended up using PETG filament is what they call this. It's the stuff they make water bottles out of. It's got a little flex to it, and it's strong. It's UV resistance. One problem though, which is kind of interesting, even though it's got flex, when it takes a really hard hit, it'll shatter. But because this is so lightweight, I wasn't worried about it on this apparatus. The Goldbox, actually I can show you this one. Originally I printed these out of PETG, and because it's just such an easier material to print versus the ABS, which this is. But after testing, I would drop some parts. The first few drops, nothing broke, and then I dropped one and it landed on the outlet here, and the whole corner exploded and shattered out. And when you're on the river, you're gonna drop stuff. So I decided, I already had a bunch printed. I stopped printing them, threw them in the trash, and then restarted and printed ABS. The worst thing I could have is to get this out, this product out to the market, and then have people dropping it, breaking it, and just giving it a bad rep. So it was ABS in here. It's actually ASA. It's ABS with a little more UV chemicals in it. So it's just a little more durable. It definitely holds up better in temperatures. But just wanted to point out the difference. In this, because this is so light, the chances of this breaking is very rare. Like I said, this is 2 years old with over a ton of material through it, and there's not even a crack or anything. It's dirty, but it works perfect. So I wasn't worried about this. And you'll notice too on these on the box and this, if you ever wondered how to get threads into a plastic part, or especially a 3D printed part, they're called heat inserts. I don't know if you can see that. They're threaded brass inserts with a knurl. You actually heat this up. The holes are prepped. You can see on this one. You already have the hole in here. You heat this up with a soldering iron or some type of heat source, and it melts in. And once that cools, it's unbelievable the strength of these. I can put a screw in here and try to break it out. It'll blow this whole corner out before that insert comes out. If it's done right, and especially with high quality, make sure if you're ever using these, buy the best ones you can. Do not get the cheap ones. I bought a cheap pair, and I ended up spending so much time re-tapping these things because all the threads were messed up. And these knurls were so weak, it was stripping out. It wasn't sitting right. It was just garbage. I ended up throwing them in the trash. I'll never do that again. Always get the good ones. But super simple to put in threads in a part. You get your spoon. This is actually a candy spoon that's gold plated. They were actually cheap on Amazon, and it works perfect. It was the right size I needed to feed the dirt in. Which is still, it's a good size scoop. This isn't a little spoon. This has got some size to it. Pull it out so you can see. This comes with all the kits. I thought the gold was kind of a little nice touch since you're looking for gold. Pull the box out. And if you've been following my recent series, I made a little update. You can see it on this one. This for general purpose, this box works amazing. It's really good, and especially here in the Northeast with the black sands we got, it just feeds right through them, no problems. But a lot of people were asking about beach gold with those black sands, and it ended up, I tested it, and it didn't work as good as I wanted. So I was able to come up with a 3D printed insert with its smaller features. I didn't want to have to reprint this box, because if I make it good to catch smaller gold, it's going to pack up with material and lose all the bigger gold. So I wanted to keep these features to use. So if you're in an area, you can run bucket after bucket after bucket with this setup. And then if the cons have a lot of black sands, or you start hitting an area where it's really concentrated black sands, just put the insert in. Put the insert in, put the lid on, and it works good. You can, by having the smaller features, it allows it to go, you can turn the pump way down and just slowly work out the sands. There's some videos, if you search on my channel, you'll see what I went through to get this to this point. So this is now included in the kits. Most people won't use it, but I want it to be there because if you do have to use it. Also, originally I included a groove going around this box in case people wanted to silicone this. I mean, on the river, it doesn't matter if this thing leaks a little. It's hard. I mean, the surface is here. Sometimes this Lexan has a little warp to it. But running this inside so much, and with other people running inside, they're like, hey, this is dripping a little more. So I now put a bead of silicone in here to help seal this up. So you're still going to get some drips out of this. There's so many different connections and fittings. It's just going to happen. So, but just to show you now, there's a silicone bead to help seal this a little better. There's the valve. I purposely went mechanical. I'm not a fan of speed controllers. The last thing I want to do is drive 2 hours to a spot. The speed controller gets wet, shorts out, and now I can't use this. So I am a big fan of mechanical valves. And actually, just if you do want to use a speed controller, keep the voltage up higher. Don't go below 11 volts and control it with more of the valve. And the reason for that is I did some testing with a speed controller with this valve open and just using the voltage. I could control the pressure in the box okay, but then I started losing my back pressure to help feed the hose up here, which was causing problems with the dirt sticking in here because there was no water in here anymore. So it's designed to run straight from the battery. If you're going to use a speed controller, just turn it down, or don't go below, I don't have the magic number, but just try not to go below 11 volts and use the valve. It's very sensitive. A little 16th of a turn makes the world of difference on how this works. So this valve rarely, once it gets set, you usually never touch it. Unless you go into this setup where you have to turn it down a little more. I installed the clips for the pump. The bilge hold actually comes with some hose clamps. I don't like hose clamps because that means you got to bring an extra tool and it takes more time to pull them on and off. It just happens that I have one on here now because no matter what I do, because of the pressure, it forms a little gap in between this blue fitting where it connects to the box, which catches gold, and it's not a big deal. But in this test where I had the pressure way down running some of the flour gold, it was really pocketed in there, so I just put this on just for that test. But normally I never run this. It's the hose is tight enough, you don't need to run that, but it's a preference. If you want to put this on, be my guest. It's up to you. Then you get the fittings, or the T that goes to the box. You know, one interesting fact I found out with this T. Originally, I didn't like the 90 degree because I was worried about material getting stuck in there. And every once in a while, you do get a twig or something that gets between the 1/4 inch classifier and will get down there and clog it up. But an interesting thing that happened that I found is I was in an area with clay. And I was able to, it was sticking, so I was just able to just kind of push it down and work it down. But as it came down the tube and hit this 90 degree, the water action just started chopping it. Just starting to dice up that clay, so it was almost a paste, a thick paste coming down the tube, and when it hit this, it just vaporized it and just turned it into a light cloud of cloudy, muddy, clayey water. But it vaporized it so good, all the gold fell out, and I was getting the box was starting to fill up with gold. Most equipment can't handle clay, but because of this setup, the pressure, and the cutting action, it actually works. So I'm not going to change this. You couldn't, like I said, if you get a weird twig or something with a little link to it, you may get a jam in there, but it doesn't happen enough to make it that big of a problem. But just a little interesting fact. I went with a copper. This is the discharge chute. I don't have it on the box right now, but that actually just press fits in here. I didn't want plastic. Well, originally I tried using plastic, but with the 3D printing, actually I can show you in the bottom of this. This has a chamfer, and it presses in. And I could not get a plastic pipe to press in and stay in. But the copper holds perfect, and the copper is going to be more durable and wear resistant. So it was more money, but in the end, this works out great. And then you got your hopper tube. That's right here. And then you got all your, let's see if I can do this. You get all your threaded rods. I purposely put these long threaded rods, you can see them right here, in 2 pieces with a nut, so it would fit into the 3-gallon bucket. Otherwise, this would be sticking out almost 2 feet, and it just messes with everything. So it takes a few extra seconds to put this together, but that's why there's a split in here, just so it's more portable. That was the only reasoning. And also, this is not the original test I did. I bought some chrome-plated steel threaded rod. I think it lasted 2 weeks before it started rusting and jamming up in the nuts and the threads. So this is not cheap. This is 18/8 stainless steel, solid stainless steel. This stuff is really expensive, but I have 2 years on this, and there's not a speck of rust. All these threads are super clean, so it's worth the money. And then you have your four legs that will screw onto the bottom, and you can see the heat inserts pressed in here. And I purposely pressed them at an angle just to make this more stable. Originally I went straight, and it was just, the box became too wiggly. I don't know, 10-15 degree angle kicking out, stabilized the whole thing. So if you see those at an angle, these are definitely put in on purpose like that, just to make it more stable. And they're adjustable. Usually once you get them all level, it's not, you never have to touch it. And because this box is pressurized, you don't worry about making it perfectly level. It's not important. This can be out of tilt. Sometimes I've done it on purpose. I've actually had it run higher up, so the material has to work its way up around. So I can run it a little hotter if I'm in an area with smaller gold. So it's a little trick. You can make it work its way uphill to get more resistance. But that's pretty much it. That's the whole kit. All right here, you can see it all. I did leave this out. I originally was going to do this in the kit, but I ended up not doing it. But these are screens that get put under the spray bar and locked in there. Dry material works awesome. I can literally take a pay dirt bag. I got videos of this, and I can just pour it in, and it instantly filters it right out. But I found wet material sticks to this. And 99.9% of the time, you're going to be running wet material, so to include this wasn't really worth it. But I did make a 3D printed little die jig that you use this to trace out the actual shape, shape it needs, and then push it on this, and then push down, and it forms the perfect little tray. Now, recently, I just created a page on my website where you're going to find, right now, you're going to find this, in the tray as the 3D printing file you need to print these out. I'm not into the business of nickel and diamond everyone. If I got to print this and ship it, I got to charge you. But if you have a 3D printer or know somebody who has a 3D printer, you can now download the file for free. And I may put this little fixture up if you want to just start making your own little custom screen thing. You can do this by hand, but this thing works perfect. And this is just regular, a roll of screen material I bought at the hardware store. This may come in the kits later in the future, but right now it's just so time consuming and most people wouldn't use it. I'm just not doing it at this point, but I just wanted to point that out. But keep an eye on that download page on my website, because you'll start seeing new items. Obviously, I'm not going to put the Goldbox, because then anybody could make it, and I do got to sell these and try to make a few bucks off them, but I'm not in the game. This isn't a cash cow for me. This is just a hobby. I'm keeping it fun. I elevated the hobby status more to a small business. but doesn't mean I can't still enjoy it. I don't want it to become too much work. But just to show you, it's a bit of a mess, but I just wanted to show you, basically, this is what you get in the kit, the quality of the materials. Again, this is ASA. This is not cheap plastic. This I printed out of PLA. It is more of a light duty plastic, but this is more for indoor use, or if you're on the river, you know, it's not going to be used all the time, just here and there for some fine cleanups. The downside with this material, it's not very heat. It doesn't like heat. You put this in a hot car on a summer day, it's going to soften, and these it'll start to warp. So just keep that in mind. Don't leave that out in the sun. These take temperatures, I want to say 200 degrees or more before you start seeing any warp. This one probably will be way over that because of the thickness. So don't worry about these. These can be. That's why I went with this material. This could be left out in the sun all day long. It's never going to hurt it. This one's the only one. But again, this isn't. Most people aren't going to use this, so I didn't want to go too crazy. And PLA is so much easier to print with. But in a nutshell, that's pretty much it. I just wanted to give a quick glance of the setup, the quality of the parts. This isn't a cheap kit. There's a lot of what you're paying for is the R&D of the design in here. It looks super simple, but there is so much R&D into this. Every little feature on here does something special. It took months and months to get this to fine-tune it to the point where this is almost 100% capture rate if everything's tuned in just right, which most pieces of equipment can never claim that. Super portable, low water usage. So if you're in an area that doesn't have a lot of water, that's a great thing. Super low impact. If you ever see this thing run, very little tailings coming out of this thing, very little sediment. I know, you know, there's a lot of states cracking down on like high bankers and stuff because of the silt going into the water. This produces almost none. So it's a very system that just wins in almost every category, and that's why I designed it. I just couldn't find one single piece of equipment that just checked all my boxes. And this one, so I made this to make sure it checks them all. Portable, fits in a 3-gallon bucket, low water use, high quality, and super efficient. Almost 100% capture rate every time when tuned in right. So I just wanted just a quick little video just to show you it. That's pretty much in a nutshell. Any questions, always reach out to me. Keep an eye on the website, the Facebook pages for more current updates. And then keep watching the channel. There's going to be more testing coming with this. Definitely more of me getting out in the streams, getting gold. That's the whole purpose of this. You know, I do use this. Like I said, it's almost 2 years old. So I'm not just making this and selling it. I'm actually using it every day. So if there's any improvements, like the tray, you're going to see about it. And then you're going to get it and include it in new kits. Or it'll be on the site to download so you can print it out yourself. So again, that was just a quick, I don't want to say commercial, because that's not what I'm trying to do. But I needed one video just to show what the box is about, how it's made, the quality of the box, because I know a lot of people cringe when they hear 3D printing, but it's not the 3D printing you heard 10 years ago. If stuff is designed right, and with the material in the printers now, it's almost as good as injection molding. It's really come a long way. But in the end, it's all in the design. If you know the weaknesses of 3D printing, you can compensate for them and make it, you know, feasible. But again, just a quick overlay of the box, the material, how it works, why I did certain stuff, certain materials I used. I just wanted to just give just one video dedicated to that. I don't want to beat this to death. But just keep watching and you'll see this thing in action. I mean, it's like I said, it's got 2 years on it now with no issues. It's easily got another 2 to 5 years before or more. It just doesn't wear. I was a little nervous at first, to be honest, with all the material rubbing against the plastic. Is it going to wear out? Is it going to start wearing holes in the box? But because of the water lubricating it, there's no wear. There is absolutely no wear on any of these plastic parts. The only little bits of wear I got was on the polycarbonate lens. And a lot of those scratches are from just moving it in and out of the bucket, you know, during transportation, stuff like that. I probably should make a little cover for it or something, but everything is holding up very well. This is not a cheap kit. But So stay tuned. There'll be more stuff coming. Keep an eye on. I got a Facebook page that I'm updating regularly, and the website um, gets updated too with new features and stuff. And especially now, you'll be able to download them if you have a 3D printer. If you probably know somebody that does, but at the same time, they're getting so cheap. Maybe now is the time to buy one. Maybe get a nice do some reviews. I mean, if you have any questions, comment, and I'll give you some pointers on some good 3D printers to get started with that are really cheap. And it's a whole different game now. The gold prospecting's fun, but making the equipment to find the gold is just as fun, at least for me. So until next time, I'll see you on the rivers. Bye.